I'm John Shrader, and welcome to the Soccer Media Podcast, our weekly look at the soccer media business and the business of soccer. We're presented by Soccer America, the gold standard of American soccer journalism for more than 50 years, and we're produced by the John Shrader Media Group. In today's episode, we hear from American Soccer Hall of Famer, World Cup veteran, and broadcaster Marcelo Balboa. And this conversation takes place less than a year from the beginning of the 2026 World Cup in North America.
This World Cup is an important one because this is probably the most pressure this group will have representing their country, playing in a World Cup in their country, because we felt it. And they need to show up. They need to do something different. They need to do something special. And they need to entertain. I think that's all of the expectations we have wrapped up in one, is we need these guys to entertain and do something different, do something special.
The entire Balboa conversation coming up in just minutes. We'd like to remind you to like us, subscribe to us, pass the word, tell folks we're here, and we're here weekly. Conversations with the great media stars and reporters in American and world soccer, and news from Soccer America's Mike Woitalla as well. Mike will join us in just a minute, but first, Mike's trivia question, something to ponder and maybe look it up or at least think about it.
In today's Soccer America trivia quiz, we are going to the 1970 World Cup in Mexico. Of course, the first World Cup took place in 1930, hosted by Uruguay. The first televised World Cup was hosted by Switzerland in 1954, when a few other European countries were able to watch the games live. What were the two major broadcasting milestones set at the 1970 World Cup in Mexico? Stay tuned for the answers later in the show.
And we'll have that for you toward the end of the program, so look for that. Did you know Soccer America membership includes a daily soccer television schedule delivered to your inbox every morning? It's something I've been using for probably decades now, kind of keep track of the television and streaming and what games are being played at home and around the world, every corner of the world. For a 30-day free trial of Soccer America, and it includes all the e-letters, go to socceramerica.com/free trial. Mike Woitalla is with us now live on tape. Greetings, Mike.
Hi, John.
Well, the Major League Soccer season 2025 is history, and Lionel Messi makes history.
Yeah, and I'm in a real good mood because I was there when Leo Messi scored a hat trick against Nashville SC here in Nashville. Watching Messi play live is just absolutely wonderful. So he brought it up to 29 goals for the season. He also got his 19th assist, and it was just fantastic watching Messi live. Fantastic.
Messi's impact on the American game, is it simple? What is it?
Well, what I was thinking of watching him is, one is how fantastic an opportunity U.S. soccer fans have to see him play live. And, that was the third time he played in Nashville. So people in Nashville very, very lucky. He scored in each of those three games. I was also thinking what a wonderful impact it has on young American players, to see that kind of skill and to see that what he does is so much about skill and intuition, and it's soccer as art. I'm also hoping that American coaches watch that because, it seems like we're so obsessed with analytics and being all around players and this and that when, what it has to do with is just skill and innovation and creativity and Messi's all that, and when his team's on, they were just fantastic.
Does it matter to his legacy at this point if he wins an MLS Cup or not?
Oh, yeah, I think it'd be great, but he's Messi. What he's done already, everything else is icing on the cake. And like I said, I'm pleased that he's having an influence on American soccer. Benja Cremaschi played for Inter Miami. The game I saw yesterday or a couple of days ago, Argentina didn't field any U.S. players. Nashville had 5. Inter Miami fielded 7 Argentines, a couple of Uruguayans, and a couple of Spaniards. Which it'd be nice to see more players like Benja Cremaschi play along with Messi. But you could see Cremaschi playing. He was the captain of the USA at the U20 World Cup that just ended. The USA made it to the quarterfinals where they lost to Morocco 3-1. But it was a good tournament for Benja, a couple other players, and Morocco went on to win it. The U20 World Cup, of course, is traditionally gives us a early look at some players we'll see on the full national team.
Yeah, Cremaschi, the Golden Boot winner of that 20 World Cup, and talk about, you can go down a list of American greats, Miola, Egas, Marcelo Balboa, people who've used that under 20 as a springboard to greatness.
Absolutely. There's a lot of players right now vying for a World Cup spot who played for the U20s when Tab Ramos was the coach. You're talking about Tyler Adams, Josh Sargent, Tim Way, Chris Richards, Sergino Dest. And then when we go back to that 1987 U20 World Cup, you had Tony Miola, Jeff Egas, and Marcelo Balboa. And looking forward to hearing an interview with him. That was when he was in the U20s, and then he played in the 90 World Cup, and he played in the 94 World Cup. Of course, he had a great career in MLS, where he's a central defender who, scores on a bicycle kick, a skillful defender and a tough defender. So I'm looking forward to hearing his interview, and I always look forward to hearing his broadcasting. It reminds me of his playing days, and a guy like that obviously is going to have good insight when he's a broadcaster.
Well, we're hoping he has some insight. We know he has some insight to share with the folks here, and not to put you on the spot because you were there back in the late 1980s. Did Balboa portend this greatness when he was still a teenager?
Yeah, first time I saw him, he was playing at San Diego State. And it was easy to see that he was a different kind of player because it was rare to have a central defender who had that kind of skill. Of course, he's Argentine-American. His dad is Argentine soccer, and that's part of the Argentine game. It's not enough to be tough and athletic. You have to be good with your feet, and that was what Balboa was his whole life, from when he was a Maguire Cup champion to San Diego State and U20 World Cup and onward.
Well, thank you for the segue and the tease, because we do talk about Argentina and being an Argentine-American with Balboa. So, Mike, see you next week.
Looking forward to it.
All right, thanks. I appreciate it. Now, our conversation with the Hall of Famer, Marcelo Balboa. I suppose there are a handful of people who can cross 2 or 3 generations of American soccer, but not many. And one of those gentlemen is with us now, Marcelo Balboa. He is an announcer now and has been a broadcaster for many years on MLS Season Pass on Apple TV+. Colorado, Los Angeles legends. Go down the list. Marcelo, thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
No, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So, California guy who ended up playing all over the place, now in Colorado for a long, long time.
Yeah.
How would you describe your soccer journey if you had to explain to somebody who you are who don't have a clue?
God, I think everybody has their journey. You know what I mean? Our journey was amateur soccer. From ODP to college to amateur soccer to playing in a World Cup. So, I went from Cerritos High School to Cerritos Junior College to the under-20 national team to San Diego State to the full national team. And it's been a grind. The opportunities that we didn't have when we were growing up. ODP was it. College coaches came to high school games to watch us play in the playoffs for recruitment. There was no real national team scouting. It was, if you made the under 20, you got lucky. And if you made the under 20, then you had a shot at playing on the national team. So we've come a long way, man, just because of the fact that, it was club soccer. It was club soccer, and you hope that some college coach out of the blue saw you or heard about you and gave you an opportunity. So the chances of us, when we said we wanted to be a pro, there was no journey at the time. You know what I mean? Everybody has their own pathway. but there was no pathway to become a professional soccer player back when we were growing up in the 80s. So you kind of had a hope that you can get a college scholarship, go play at a decent school, and then maybe the under 20 coach would see you. So there wasn't once we qualified for the 90 World Cup, then there was a journey. There was a pathway. There was an opportunity for us to be able to play pro soccer.
Do you ever, I don't know, lament is the right word, I'm not sure, but there's a whole generation of you guys, Winalda and Doyle and Lawless, and go down the whole list of guys who sort of crossed those generations. And now you look around at how much money some of these guys are making. And I've asked this of people in other sports before, but do you ever think about that? Does that cross your mind?
No.
Yeah.
You know what it is everybody has, where would soccer have been if it wasn't for guys like Eric Winalda, John Harkes, Tab Ramos, John Stolmeyer, Paul Crumpy, David Van Ole, and I can keep going down the list. These are the guys that were grinding, the Walter Barr. Those were the guys. Where would soccer be if it wasn't for Fernando Clavijo, Kevin Crowe, Tattoo, the indoor guys? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I think we were all set on this earth to do our part and to help this soccer grow. I think the mentality that we had was different than this modern era. We grinded out. We stayed in really, really bad hotels. We flew, domestic flights. We slept on the floor. Well, when one guy slept on three, we go to Europe and there'd be the three seats. One guy would sleep there. The other guy would sleep on the floor. You know what I mean? We didn't have chartered flights. We didn't have 4-star, 5-star hotels. We made, I believe it was $5-10 a day in per diem. So I think when you look at what we went through, I think they picked the right people to go through that journey to lay the foundation of where U.S. soccer wanted to go. And then from there, you know what I mean? The next generation's job was to take it to the next level, and the next generation's job was to take it to the next level. So I think we were handpicked to be able to start this journey and to lay a foundation for U.S. soccer and soccer in this country.
One of the great teams, one of the great names of the old days, and it's not that long ago, like 35 years ago, were the San Francisco Bay Blackhawks that put together quite an assemblage of talent at the time. We mentioned Winalda, but was Kinnear on that team? Was Doyle on that?
Dominic Doyle, Troy Dyack,
yes,
Mark Doherty, Tim Martin. We can keep going. We had a very good group. That was, you're looking at 4 national team players right off the bat. And then Van Ole came on. That was 5. So Paul Bravo.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it was, they assembled a very nice team. And I think that's why we won a few championships in one year. I think it was the APSL at the time. I don't remember I think so, but, we had guys with a lot of experience. It couldn't play pro because no one would open the door for us to go anywhere in Europe. So we played here in the amateur league, and again, that was the only place for us to play.
And you still had to wait through the 94 World Cup and then another year after that because it was supposed to be the next year, but in 1996. So I guess in some respects, you guys are all happy that you got 6 or 7 years into Major League Soccer, considering what you'd been through, right?
Yeah, listen, we had the opportunity after the 94 World Cup. We got an opportunity to go play in Europe or in South America. I got lucky enough to go play in Mexico with Mike Sorber and Tab. And we were waiting. The dream for all of us was to help start a professional league in our own country and make it successful. So, it did take a little long. We were a little heartbroken when we knew we weren't going to start in 95. I think the blessing is that we were able to at least get in 5, 6, 7 years before we aged out and we had to retire. But it was, like I said, it was a dream come true for all of us. And I think that's why you saw a lot of players when MLS decided to to start in 96, you saw Lexi come back. You saw Eric Winalda. Tab was the first one who signed for Major League Soccer. Then John Harkes came back. You know what I mean? Tony Miola. Everybody started coming back because we all talked about it. We all had a goal that we wanted to see a league, a professional league in our country.
And let's be honest here. We were both there. I was in the booth and you were out there playing, but there were some times there when the thread was barely holding this thing together, when the stitching was coming apart of this league after 5 or 6 years that it had been founded, right? It was tough.
Well, listen, thanks to Phil Anschutz, to the Hunts and the Crafts, who saw the potential of what this league could be. They stuck it out financially, and I'm sure they've lost a lot of money at that point. But if it wasn't for them believing in what we had out there, the product of what the sport could do, we probably would have folded after about 5 or 6 years. So they saw the vision. That's why they're businessmen. That's why they're very successful businessmen, because they knew what the sport of soccer is around the world. And they knew it's just a matter of time before it caught on here in the United States. So they went through the rough times. They fought it out. They financially struggled keeping this league afloat. But look where we're at now. 30 years later, 30 teams, soccer-specific stadium, state-of-the-art training facilities. So, you know, that's why they're very successful in business, because they can see potential.
In, I guess it was around 2002 or so when you hung it up and you started broadcasting. Why did you move into the booth? Why did you put a microphone in front of your face as your role in soccer at that time?
Because the doctor that did surgery on my knee screwed my knee up and cut my career short, probably 2 or 3 years. I had a meniscus tear, and when he went in, all he did was and this is not coming from me. They gave me a bone bruise. From that bone bruise, they traded me to New York. I took an MRI, and I still had the meniscus tear that the doctor didn't fix. But he gave me a sweet bone bruise that basically kept me out for 9 months, almost 10 months. And the doc finally just said, if you don't let it heal, there's a good chance you could break right below the kneecap, and you'll be in one of those knee replacement situations. So I had to call it probably a year or two earlier than I wanted to. But that's where back in the old days, again, be careful who you allow to touch you and touch you and do your surgery. So that's where the issue came in for me.
So then broadcasting. So what was the decision to give that a shot?
JP De La Camera, a few years before I retired, JP says, after we were done doing an interview, he's like, you should think about going into TV. And I said, I'm going to play a few more years. That's not really an interest of mine right now. And then I went through the knee surgery. I came back. And if you remember, and everybody remembers Mark Cuban started a company called HDNet, high definition TV there, and groundbreaking at the time. And they got the rights to do the MLS games. So a guy named Daryl Ewalt said, and Mike Cohen said, listen, you should try this. I said, okay. So I talked to Daryl Ewalt, and Daryl was like, yeah, we want you to do the games. I'm like, I'm not interested. Not really. Right now it's just not, what I was looking for. And he said, think about it, called me a week later. We're about 2-3 weeks out before the season starts. And he's like, listen, the first game's in Colorado. He goes, why don't you come, do the game, see if you like it, and then we'll go one game at a time and see what you think. So I show up at Old Mile High. I just met Glenn Davis, and he says, here's your headset. He said, here's the talk back button if you want to talk to me. If you got a sneeze or cough, here's the cough button. He's like, good luck. And I literally just sat there like, okay. Had no clue about replays. Glenn had to teach me so much within that first year. But I ended up, after 2 or 3 games, really enjoying it. Being able to break down the game, being able to go to practices and see how they were doing things. It was a different side that you're always involved in practice. You know what I mean? You were a player, I was in practice. Now you're sitting on the outside. So you're watching how the coach is managing the players. Strategically, you're watching how he's setting up his team tactically in practice. And then when you get to the game, it was just fun to talk about what you saw at practice, what you're seeing here. And it just kind of, it took off. And I guess the thing that helped me too was the fact that I was bilingual and I was able to do games in English and Spanish, which everybody for some reason wanted me to try doing Spanish too. So I kind of went into Spanish in that regard. But I've had a blast. Maybe 1 year I struggled because of the criticism that I got. But after that, it's been great.
When did you feel like you could say, I'm pretty good at this? Do you remember?
No, I still don't say that.
No? Okay.
No.
You think it?
You know what it is when I do Spanish TV, when we do the lot of the games, the USA, Mexico and games like that, I get abused by the Mexican fans. And don't get me wrong, like not like really bad way, just in a, why are you on our network? Why are you defending the US? Why are you know what I mean? And my job, and that's what people don't understand, especially the Mexican fans, it's always Kikín, it's Osvaldo, and then it's the play-by-play guy. So it's 3 Mexican two ex-players and a play-by-play against the American guy. And so when we're on air, it's always a battle because I'm defending the U.S., they're critiquing the U.S., I'm killing Mexico, they're killing the U.S. So it turns into more of a battle, but people don't realize I've been hired to defend, to counter what they say about Mexico and what they say about the U.S. So I love it. You know what I mean? The only time I got beat up was during the World Cup in Germany because of the fact that I'll leave it at I got thrown under the bus by somebody and they used me as the scapegoat. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's never happened in our business, you know.
Yeah,
that.
no, not at all.
Happened, no.
Not at all.
Would it make any difference, Marcelo, if you were of Mexican heritage, you're of Argentine heritage? Would that make any difference at all to the Mexican fans?
No, listen,
No.
when I played in Mexico, initially the fans were like, why is there an American here? Okay, let's just be honest. When I went to León, and the more I spoke Spanish and tried to learn more and try to get my vocabulary higher and use the slang they use in Mexico, little by little, they started liking me. You know what I mean? Because I showed an effort of wanting to learn Spanish even more.
Mm-hmm.
So when I wore the U.S. jersey, the León fans hated me. When I put on the U.S. jersey, the León fans hated me. When I put on the León jersey, they liked me. So I get it. It's that I'm an American Argentine or an Argentine-American. So I think that it's just, you know what I mean? It's part of our business. Not everybody's going to like you. Not everybody's going to hate you. So I have a good time when I'm on air. I joke around sometimes, and we try to make the game fun for people to watch, English and Spanish.
Yeah. Do you think any or many of other American sports have the same kind of deeply passionate culture as soccer? I mean, NFL fans,
No.
they hate each other, and
Yeah.
the Cubs and Cardinals hate each other, and go with the Yankees and the Red Sox, sure, all of those things. But is there something equivalent to that sort of deep down visceral?
Nah, listen, when you talk about soccer in Europe or South America, it's not quietly sitting in your seat and watching a game. I watched basketball games in Spain where it's like a soccer game. They're cheering, they're yelling, they're waving flag. No one's sitting down. You know what I mean? And that's the way our sport is. It's that passionate. It's something that we've had since we were a kid. When I was born, my dad's got pictures. I mean, the first thing they put me in was a River Plate jersey and a uniform. I had a River Plate jersey on when I was, I think, a year old. So it's something that's just in the blood, and it's something that comes down from generation to generation. If you're a Boca fan, if 2 generations back, you're going to be a Boca fan now, and you're going to make your son a Boca fan or a River Plate fan. Just like in Spain, Barcelona, Real Madrid, Manchester United, Manchester City, When your family is attached to a club team, they will attach their grandchildren. They will attach their children. They will attach anybody who will listen.
So you are a River Plate fan.
I didn't say that now. I didn't say that. I didn't listen. I grew up as a River Plate fan.
Yeah.
Okay. But the problem was after the Copa America in Uruguay, Boca wanted to buy me. So they made inquiries to U.S. Soccer. I told my dad, and my dad made it very clear, you're not playing for Boca. He goes, no, if River Plate wants you, that's fine, but you can't play for Boca. So I ended up staying in León in Mexico. But like I said, that's just soccer. That's the passion we have that our family, our grandparents, our great-grandparents have for their teams.
So literally, they could have sent you a contract and said, here, look at all this money, and you wouldn't have done it.
I didn't say that. My dad said that.
Yeah, okay.
If I would have felt comfortable at that time, they were struggling. They weren't paying, and I had a very good place in León. People accepted me. I was getting paid good money. The style of soccer that was being played there for me was excellent. I ended up picking up a few good friends in León with Gustavo de Sotti, Tita, the Brazilian, and I just felt like if I was smarter, I would have gone earlier. It fit my style of soccer.
We'll have more with Marcelo Balboa coming up in just a minute. Did you know when you join Soccer America, you get a Soccer on TV schedule delivered in your inbox every morning? I've relied on it for years to keep track of matches around the world. You will also get expert analysis, insider interviews, and in-depth coverage of the biggest games. Try it for free for 30 days at socceramerica.com/free trial. And while you're here, check the links in the description to sign up for notifications when new episodes of our podcast drop. So, as a child of a man from Argentina, not sure if your mom is from there as well,
Yep,
but your parents are Argentine. They're the defending World Cup champions. How did that work? How does that sit so far in your family?
It sits great. You know what I mean? I got to say this. Being lucky enough to be an Argentine-American, I was even in tears to see Argentina win it because I know of the struggles of my mom and dad's families, the economy, everything that was not going right in Argentina. They needed something to lift that country up a little bit and to call my mom and my dad, and they're in tears at home celebrating that Argentina won the World Cup. You don't get to live that too often, but to see the joy on their face was really, really cool to see how happy they were. And everybody that I knew that was Argentine, the way they celebrated. So listen, it's tough to repeat, but you got to live that moment. And my mom and dad lived that moment very well.
That's pretty cool. I talked with Andres Cantor recently, and he said, but he talked about crying and the broadcast and all of those things, right? But he said something interesting. He said, and I called my friends at FIFA and said, wait a second, we only get to be champions for 3.5 years because of the way the calendar worked. So come on, we can only celebrate for we got cheated out of 6 months of celebration. So that was kind of an interesting
being a December World Cup probably wasn't great, but you know what? Here you go is to play in a World Cup is special.
Yeah.
Okay. To win a World Cup, very low percentage of athletes will ever be able to live that moment as a fan. So you don't know when Argentina will win it again. So I can tell you this, my mom and dad have enjoyed the last 3.5 years, and they will enjoy it till either Argentina wins it or loses it, but you can't take away the feeling they've had for the last 3 years.
Yeah, that's awesome. Speaking of the World Cup, it'll be the biggest, grandest spectacle in the history of sport, maybe one of the biggest, grandest spectacles in the history of humankind, right? How big is this? How important is this for the U.S. national team?
Listen, it's the biggest sporting event in the world. We know that. It'll be the most watched sporting event. I think is behind cricket. I think it was somebody said. And so it's important for the U.S. because in '94, not a lot of people really knew who soccer was. I remember watching a thing the other day, a documentary from the '94 World Cup, where they went around the streets of New York, and I think it was L.A., and they threw out quite a few of our names, and not one person said soccer. They threw out hockey. They threw out rock musician. They threw out paint. They threw out everything but a soccer player. So that World Cup was an eye-opener to everybody of what the world of soccer is about. It was the most attended, the highest viewed. The U.S. did an absolutely fantastic job. We shocked everybody by beating Colombia and getting out of our group and giving Brazil a hell of a game. Expectations were not very high. Now we go back, 2026 rolls around. Expectations are high. There's a lot of pressure on this U.S. national team, as well as there should be, because this is where we want our sport to be. This is where we've always wanted our sport to be. If you lose, you're going to get criticized. If you win, you're going to be praised. So now we're at a point where, is this going to take it over the top? Who knows? If we reach a quarterfinal or a semifinal, this could do so much for soccer here. But like anything else, we need this group to do something special. We need this group to not just get out of the group, because we did that in the 90s. We already were doing that. So it's not about getting into the fourth game and winning that fourth game. Now it's about getting into that fifth game and being competitive and being able to say, we could beat this team. We could get into a semifinal. So I think when you're looking at this, or the round of 16, we need to do something special, because all eyes will be on us, Mexico, and Canada, and especially the U.S., because the U.S. has been struggling a little bit of late. I think they will straighten out and they'll get rectified before the World Cup comes. But this World Cup is an important one, because this is probably the most pressure this group will have representing their country, playing in a World Cup in their country, because we felt it. And they need to show up. They need to do something different. They need to do something special. And they need to entertain. I think that's all of the expectations we have wrapped up in one, is we need these guys to entertain and do something different, do something special.
It won't matter to a lot of Americans. National identity really is the most easily marketable thing in sport, in anything, right? Put the USA on there and you're a fan. Gymnastics, swimming, whatever it is in the Olympics. Right?
Miracle on ice. That's what everybody's hoping for. Let's be honest.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah. What are they going to have to do to get in that position to be a miracle on grass?
God. Look at this group. Hopefully get a good group. That'll help. Mm-hmm. The cross bracket, when you get into a quarterfinal, hopefully, if you go back to when they got out of the group, they played Mexico, I believe, in the fourth game. Mm-hmm. I think a little bit of luck. I think you have to have a little bit of luck. You have to get a good draw, and you've got to be playing some of your best soccer at the right time. You know what I mean? In a World Cup, most teams will have a so-so game, we'll say. Can you get a result where you don't play your best soccer out of the three? That, it's going to be important. But again, this is what we wanted. This is the pressure we want on these kids. This is what we wanted the sport to get to. We always wanted it to be a mainstream sport. I'm not saying we want to take we're going to surpass the NFL. We're not crazy to think that. We know what the NFL is all over the world. But we also know that the World Cup comes every 4 years. And you have a great opportunity to lift this sport in this country dramatically from here to here if you do something special. Look what the Miracle on Ice did for hockey in the United States. Mm-hmm. So I'm not saying that's what we're looking for, but this group has to do something special.
Considering the attendant pressure of being at home, but the advantages of being at home.
Yeah.
What is that going to mean that it's here on our soil for these players?
Better show up. You better give everything you got. You can't leave anything in the locker room. You know what I mean? That's what it's going to come down to. You got to find a way to grind out a result. You got to find a way to get a result. You have to find a way to get this into the next round. You've got to fight and scratch for 90 minutes to get the job done. There's no such thing as I'm going to take a break on this play. So I think these players know the importance of what this World Cup means playing the United States. And let's be honest, playing in a World Cup is one thing. I've played in 3 World Cups, 2 away from home. None of those 2 compare to playing in the 94 World Cup at home in front of your fans. That is heaven on earth. That's what you dream about. That's what you play for. You play to play in a World Cup, but when you have an opportunity to play in a World Cup at home in your own, listen, ask the Argentine, the Brazils, playing in a World Cup's awesome, but playing it in front of your fans, that pressure, I mean, it is one of the coolest feelings when you walk out of that stadium and it's not 90,000 Italians in 90. It's not, you know what I mean? It's 90,000 American fans with their red, white, and blue, with their flags waving, expecting you to do something special, which is one of the coolest feelings in the world. Ask Eric Winalda. Yeah. He scored the goal against Switzerland. Ask him what it was like scoring that goal or scoring in another game. You know what I mean? Listen, as a little kid, man, we have dreams of that. You know, people talk about, I'm on the free throw line. It's the NBA final. Well, you know what? Step out onto the field in a World Cup at home. And it's the chills of just seeing your own people, your own family cheering and expecting good things. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you have one most vivid memory of the 94 World Cup being out on the field?
There's so many good moments, you know, when you break down a World Cup in 4 games, you know, walking out in the Silver Dome, first game ever played in a roof stadium, you know, indoor stadium. The way the sound echoed up and down when you walked out against Colombia, which no one gave us a chance. You know what I mean? It was, you know, one of those deals where you have every game had special moments, but I would say when that whistle blew against Colombia, the way you have a game plan when you go into a World Cup, we thought, okay, we can get a result against Switzerland. You know, we'll probably, because we've already lost to Colombia quite a few times. So we thought, okay, a win or a tie, probably a loss, and then a win or a tie. One of those 2 would win, and the bookends, you'd get into the next round. So, well, we're up 2-0, and then Colombia comes back and scores that goal. We're like, oh, crap, here we go. And then that whistle blows. And we all just it was like we won the World Cup. We shocked everybody. Listen, to this day, that in U.S. soccer history is the biggest win in U.S. soccer history, because you know why? None of us were playing pro soccer. We were all amateurs. 90% of that team was amateurs. 90% of that, or 80% of that team then, was training in Mission Viejo for almost a year and a half, just playing international games. Everybody else on every other team were playing pros in Europe or in South America. So when you look at that game, what we did that day, I don't think a lot of people knew that most of us didn't play pro soccer. Most of us was playing amateur soccer in the United States, be it with the Blackhawks, be it with the Colorado Foxes. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it was a special moment when that referee blew that whistle. You just kind of like, holy crap, what did we just do? You know what I mean? It was that kind of moment.
Yeah. Couple final things here, Marcelo. We've briefly alluded to the fact that you broadcast in both English and in Spanish, not generally in the same broadcast.
Well, you know, when I do Spanish, I do throw in a few Spanglish words.
Okay, so well, there you go. There you go. So do you approach it at all differently? I mean, you talk a little bit about the dynamics of who you work with, but is there much different fundamentally between those 2 broadcast styles?
Well, listen, it's more natural for me to do it in English because I speak English all day long, and then I get on the phone. I speak Spanish to a few friends, but no, I try to call the game the same way. I try to, I try to keep it simple. I don't try to explain the obvious. I try to explain to people what maybe they didn't see, what kind of run that was. You know what I mean? So everybody has their own style, and I think that what works for them. What doesn't. But for me, I've always been told less is more. You know what I mean? So the important thing is to have a good chemistry with your partner. You know what I mean? The timing is important when you jump in, how short your comments are, how precise your comments are. So there's a lot of things like that, but I try to call it the same way, English and Spanish.
Are the audiences different? Do they look at it differently, approach it differently?
No, not really.
No.
Not really. Again, it all depends on who's playing and whose side are you on.
Well, there you go.
International games, you've got to be very careful because of the fact that I always get accused of, oh, you're protecting the U.S. Well, that is my job. When I do Univision, that is my job, because I can tell you Kikeen and we get along great and we joke around and we have bets. Kikeen's not going to protect the United States. You know what I mean? I remember when we went through that 3-year period that the U.S. national team won Nations League, right? Even then, leading up to the game, Osvaldo would be saying the U.S. is lucky. We're going to win today. We're a better team, and we're going to walk today through and win. And I'm sitting there going like, you've lost for the last 3 years, and you're just going to walk through this game like you're going to breeze by everybody. So, you know what I mean? It's fun because of the fact that we banter back and forth, and the fans jump in and get involved too. So, but yeah, they hated me for that 3-year window. They didn't like me very much. I won all the bets. I got the Panky Keen's hair red. I made him wear a U.S. national team jersey. I made him wrap an American flag around him. So we had a good time. And I think the Mexican fans that watched the game enjoyed it because we made it entertaining, bantering back and forth.
Yeah. And hey, you're a defender, so you can take anything, right? They can come at you. That's the way you see the game, right?
If I see it coming at me, it's great. Sometimes you don't see it coming. That's the hard part. Sometimes you don't see some of the comments coming. But again, listen, it is what it is. You know what I mean? I'm a firm believer of you can criticize me all you want, but at the end of the day, I look at it as a lot of people probably would love to do what I'm doing. You know, I've been very blessed to be able to play soccer and to go into broadcasting. And people think it's an easy job. But when you're learning names and backgrounds and where they play and, you know, what the trend is of this team. So people, it's a little eye-opening when people start realizing how much work we've got to do, go back and watch games and rewatch those games to see what kind of tendencies they have. Trying to put a lineup together an hour before the game when they give you the rosters and you've got to quickly put everything together,
Yeah.
So It's not as easy as people think it's just you show up. Oh, you know, all the MLS teams, you can just show up and do the game. Not even close. Not even close.
I have an old line I use as often as I have to, and that is the only people who think broadcasting is easy are the ones who have never tried it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And that's it.
It's easy to sit on the couch and have a beer and try to call the game. You know what I mean? A lot of people do that at home, which is great.
And they're great at it then.
Exactly,
they're awesome.
Exactly. Yeah. So like I said, at the end of the day, man, how blessed. I got to play soccer for a living.
Yeah.
And then now when I retired, I get to do broadcasting. I get to watch games. I get to call them. I get to commentate. And it is. I've had a very blessed retirement. First 5 years struggled a little bit, but after I found myself a little bit, it's been a good life, man.
Well, I hope you can do it for as long as you like. That's the best part of it.
I appreciate that.
As long as your knee holds up, you'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Marcelo, thanks for the time. I appreciate it.
Anytime, my friend.
All right. Marcelo Balboa, Univision and Apple TV Plus, MLS Season Pass. Anything else we need to plug for you?
No, man, that's good.
That's good.
You know, a dog dad.
Well, there you go. A happy dog dad.
There we go.
All right. Super. Thanks.
All right, brother.
Thanks so much to Marcelo for his time and energy and comments. We really do appreciate it. And before we wrap, if you're looking to stay on top of the game, check out Soccer America. Members get the daily Soccer on TV schedule and the daily digest of the top soccer stories in their inbox every morning, plus the coverage of the biggest matches. You can try it for free for 30 days at socceramerica.com/free trial. That's socceramerica.com/free trial. And while you're there, click like and subscribe and check the links in the description to get notified when new episodes drop. And of course, before this episode is done, we need to know the answer to Mike's trivia question.
The two broadcasting milestones set at the 1970 World Cup hosted by Mexico. Number one, it was the first World Cup that was televised live globally via satellite. When the 1962 World Cup was hosted by Chile, they had to put films of the games on airplanes so that Europeans could watch them about 48 hours later. The other milestone in 1970 at the World Cup in Mexico that Brazil won with its bright yellow jerseys and blue shorts. It was the first World Cup that was televised in color.
All right, Mike, thank you very much. That's Mike Woitalla of Soccer America. I'm John Shrader. Remember to like us, subscribe to us, pass it along. We are here weekly. And we'll see you next time on the Soccer Media Podcast.